welcome to this week's episode of Automated. I, of course, am your host, Stefan Soxmacher, CEO and co-founder here at Polymath Robotics. Sitting across from me is not one, but two different people wearing black shirts. One of whom is identically matching my shirt today for like the fifth time in the last 2 weeks that we've dressed in sequence. But next to him is a very odd fella who is not normally known to be around these parts, and he's wearing a shirt with a wizard on it. Like, who are you, person who stumbled into our very exclusive podcast booth?
Hi, I'm Ed Niedermeyer. You may know me from the Autonocast podcast.
A podcast that's nearly as popular as Automated, just like a notch or two below. Having just shared our listener numbers with Ed, he's intimidated, he's quivering, he's been shaking, and he's thinking like, oh, one day maybe Autonocast can be as popular as Automated.
Well, we've been doing it a little bit longer.
Like a week or two.
Yeah. Plus we have Alex Roy, so, you know.
And I have too much hair to compete against Alex Roy. This, of course, is Automated, our weekly podcast, where apparently Ilia is going to hold up his fingers every time I say the words weekly podcast. We talk about robots here. To start off with, we're going to spitball a robot into creation, and then we're going to talk about a subject in robotics. And what are we going to talk about in broader robotics these days? Ed or Ilia? We don't have a lot of guests, so we're not used to talking to the company.
Usually you look at the person who you want to talk. You know, instead of looking down at your microphone or whatever.
I was just looking at everyone.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are the experts. Where does robotics like end these days?
I you know, everywhere. Robotics is life. But given so actually, Ed, why don't you introduce yourself outside of just saying the Autonocast? You've done a little bit more than be on a podcast a couple of times.
Yeah, a little bit. So I started covering the auto industry in 2008, kind of randomly, did not really intend to do that, and mostly covered like the auto bailout and just a whole bunch of kind of traditional auto industry stuff. I got kind of interested in the first company that kind of like was something beyond just sort of the traditional auto industry was Project Better Place. Mm-hmm. I was really interested in this Israeli company. They did battery swap, but kind of had a totally different business model. They went bankrupt. They burned like $400 million and disappeared. One of those fun stories.
Who does that?
Yeah.
It's a very rare outcome in robotics.
Mm-hmm.
It's become a lot more popular recently. They were early to the game.
It's a cool thing to do.
Yeah. And that led me to Tesla when Tesla started getting into battery swap.
And since then, you've been an incredible supporter of Tesla. Everything Elon says, you have tattooed onto your body, and you hinge on his every word of brilliance.
Listeners can't see this, but imagine that Dune Bene Gesserit with the tattoos all over his face. This is Ed sitting in front of me currently.
I mean,
with just a lot of memes.
It's funny. I kind of did the one thing that no one really has done with Elon, which is just like, maybe he's not right. Maybe it's like
that's strange.
Everyone just sort of is kind of like, oh, it must be true. It must be true. Everyone gives him so much benefit of the doubt. And like, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just the kind of person that has to go see the thing. And like when he said there was a battery swap and then 4 months later, like couldn't find anyone online who was actually using it. I just went and looked at it and like, it wasn't real. They were using it to scam the California ZEV program. And
really?
Oh yeah. They were getting like double the credits per car. And
amazing.
And you know, when I went there on a Memorial Day weekend, you know, there was all these people there who do this drive regularly who were supposed to have been invited to participate, and they hadn't gotten any invites. And instead what Tesla did was they brought in extra superchargers and hooked them up to diesel generators. And so like, it was awesome. Like, for me, it was like the
Earth was saved that day from global.
Yeah, totally. And this is 2015. And like, all I did was went and just be like, let me see if this is real or not. And like what I found was shocking, both like in terms of like a technological facade, sort of like clearly the environmental mission is not as real as it is. Clearly like they're not above, you know, essentially sort of taking advantage and pushing the limits on like these government subsidy programs in order to show So it was like there's a financial facade, there's like the mission level facade. On the financial level, there's a facade, right? Because they're getting all these credits and selling them. You know, they probably made over $1 billion on the credits just from that swap station. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that Tesla for a long time, their actual primary revenue was credits and not actually selling credits.
And every time when it came time for them to show a quarterly profit, you know, Stefan and I, we were talking about how Elon pulls rabbits out of hats. That was one of his favorite ones in the early days was they would just sell a bunch of credits, claim a profit. Wall Street would be like, look, they can turn a profit. All you critics are idiots. And the critics would be like, well, If you look at the numbers, they're selling credits, which they're getting by, scamming this program. Yeah. So
big Elon fan.
Huge.
Which makes sense to me because what I live my life by is that the more successful you are, the smarter you are. And like, you never lie if you have been successful. What I know to be true, which is connected to the fact that I haven't been all that successful. So anyway, to start off the podcast, let's start a game. And it seems like our cards have been altered irretrievably. Oh my gosh, this is so weird. As a reminder of our game, typically we each pull a card of a technology or an application where we need to apply it. But for some reason, it seems like the technology we have to use is EV, and I think personal vehicles are the application. Right. So I've been thinking for a while, this EV thing seems popular. I was thinking about getting into the EV game, and meaning I want to start like an autonomous personal vehicle. I live in a city. Parking's hard. I street park. Right. So I'd like it to be able to like park itself, ideally drop me off at my house and then go find parking wherever on the street. I also don't have charging. So, figure that out.
Can go charge itself.
Solar panels.
Yeah. Yeah. In the cloud.
Yeah. And you only need about, 4 square miles of solar panels.
Cool.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. That's
solar over Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Ooh. So I guess let me think
Careful, too close to a real business.
So maybe the use case is a personal vehicle. Maybe it's smart car size for a city driver like me to be an EV. I guess I think. Well, I also want to do road trips. I want it to be small so I can park, but I also need to be able to drive to San Diego.
So what you're saying is you want battery swaps as well.
Probably battery swaps is necessary.
All right. I heard there's a credit program for that.
Good news for your revenue projections. Yeah.
So if I'm building like a 2-seat vehicle, like what type of battery do I need to be able to drive 400 or so miles in an area?
I mean, how performant do you want the thing to be? Because you get less and less efficient the faster and faster you go.
Yeah.
Because your wind resistance just takes up the majority of your energy. I don't need to go too fast.
I don't drive like that ridiculous. Like 80 miles an hour for a 400-mile trip down to San Diego.
What's that in real units?
Freedom units?
110 kilometers an hour?
Sure.
Somewhere about?
Sure.
Roughly? All right. And you want to get to San Diego, which is 8 hours away.
Yep.
So you're talking about
I think 10 hours.
10 hours.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, you're talking about 1,000
joules.
No. It wouldn't be. No, way more than that. You want 1,000-mile range at highway speeds.
Well, no, I could charge when I get there. I just need 400-mile range, 500-mile range at highway speeds.
All right, 500-mile range at highway speeds in a little like smart car size thing.
Yep.
So most of your car will be battery.
Yeah. I'm going to say, in a smart car footprint, you're going to talk about stacking styles vertically. You're going to be sitting like 20 feet off the ground.
It's going to come with a special little step ladder to get up to the smart car thing. The thing will weigh 5 tons. No, not 3 tons, let's call it. And 3 tons over the footprint of a smart car will mean you can't actually take most civilian roadways because you will probably damage the foundation or the pavement.
No, I mean like an F450 is 4,000 pounds, right? Or no?
I'm just thinking size-wise, right? You're getting more and more of that weight is getting into a smaller and smaller and smaller space.
Yeah.
And the wheels in these smart cars are not enormous either. They're usually pretty small efficiency.
Well, so over 6,000 pounds too, I think you're getting into medium-duty truck regulation. So your city car is now a medium-duty
truck.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you need like the 3 amber lights on the hood to, the which is actually a really funny thing. The Ford Raptor was sort of where that got started. And now you see people putting them on like Subaru Foresters and Toyota Tacomas. It's a regulatory thing. Those 3 amber lights in the grill, you have to do it because it's over a certain width.
Oh.
And now it's like become a fashion. It's really funny. It's a regulatory compliance thing. It's become like an automotive fashion.
So it's a cyber trucklet.
Yeah, the Cybertruck city car.
Yeah.
So in other words, are you guys telling me that if I want to promise my customers that they can drive to San Diego and they can park in a smart car spot, I have to lie to them?
I mean, I wouldn't legally advise you to lie.
Well, so then
I haven't seen the Cybertruck.
What's the cost of $5,000 a battery?
Does the Cybertruck need those 3 yellow lights?
Yeah.
Where are they?
It is they're in the grill.
Oh, okay. So they're there.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, I give him credit for that one then.
Yeah.
Generally, he skims around that stuff.
I know. I was gonna say regulatory, but that's a cool regulatory compliance. It's like again, like the Raptor has made it like a cool thing. People who don't even need it put it on their cars.
Well, so like, what's the cost of the batteries that I'd need to drive down there?
That's hard to predict. I mean, in an EV, you've seen a lot of, and I'm not an automotive expert to be clear.
Yeah.
But I read it for fun.
If only we had one.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of these guys have moved to
is it 100 watt hour?
Kilowatt hour.
Kilowatt hour. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. 100 kilowatt hour. Yeah. It's sort of generally like, at least that's like the target at scale. And of course you can be making like 5 million of these a year.
Yeah.
So at that kind of scale,
probably a week too.
100 kilowatt hours, good estimate.
$100 a kilowatt hour?
Yeah.
So
we haven't figured out exactly how many kilowatt hours.
I guess like what's the battery cost of a Model 3 or a Model S or any of the Teslas?
I don't know that.
Oh, yeah.
If you've seen a lot of manufacturers, they've gone to these skateboard type platforms where it's just the powertrain and batteries and whatever. And that skateboard, the whole thing is making up like 80% of your cost. Yeah. Because all of it is.
So if a Model 3 is 60 grand, 70 grand, with the minimal features they actually will sell you, and they're making like 5 grand a car on profit. So then we're talking a $60,000 cost, $50,000 skateboard. And I want 2 of those skateboard, and the batteries are almost certainly the most expensive part of the skateboard. So this is probably $100,000 base to my smart car. Yeah.
Well, and
it's going to be available for the everyman though.
You mentioned autonomy. I mean, running all those sensors and compute. I mean, that's not part of that calculation.
But so
just stack another one of those batteries on top. Double keep going up.
No, it's a truck, so it has a bed.
Okay.
So you put the batteries in. It's an optional add-on module.
Yeah.
That you just load on batteries and you plug them in.
Like an EV that has an optional trailer that's just more batteries.
You should
a range extending battery trailer.
You should think of it like building a car in Minecraft, where only like all the blocks are just batteries, and you're just gonna have like a little negative space to sit in, But
to pull the Minecraft analogy further, the blocks you're using in particular are the little TNT blocks. As soon as you get hit, it just explodes.
In Minecraft.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I mean, like, why not just do a smart car with a normal smart car size and maybe only like 50 miles of range? And then I go like link up to a battery trailer for when I want to go to San Diego.
No, but seriously, if you wanted swappable batteries, the miracle you need to run that business is you need a train station of swappable batteries, and also figure out how the heck you do ownership and lifetime warranty for batteries. Yeah. Which is not trivial.
Right. And that's why like swappable batteries was really just like not a great idea for the consumer market, right?
Yeah.
Because and like the difference between what Better Place did was they were not just addressing the refueling time, they were also addressing the upfront cost.
Yeah.
So basically what they would do is they would sell you an EV without a battery.
Mm-hmm.
And so like in 20, whatever, this is, pre-Nissan Leaf, I think, in 2010 or whatever, in Israel, you could get, Renault midsize sedan. That was the problem. They only had one automaker. You could have any car you wanted as long as it was a Renault Laguna or something. And so for like 20 grand, instead of like a $40,000 car, they take the battery out, sell you just the car for 20 grand.
Yeah.
And then you have like a mileage plan and stuff.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because then you don't own the battery. You're not exposed to that, right? Whereas with the Tesla, this is how I knew
you're mostly buying a Tesla. You're mostly buying a battery.
You're mostly buying that battery. And if you take care of that battery, like that it's well taken care of, are you going to swap that out for some random battery?
Yeah.
It's like would you swap the engine on your car that you have all your service records for one that
I mean, there's a company that I know right now that does batteries as a additional axle for on the road trucks.
Okay.
And the thought process is truck drivers who are incredibly green motivated because of their deep liberalism will connect to these trailers in between the tractor and the trailer, and that will make them an EV when they're at highway speeds.
Okay.
And basically your point being anyone who does that who's a little not gentle will destroy one of those batteries.
Well, not only that, side quest here, but the thing with the Tesla truck, the problem with that one is maximum weight. Yeah. When you get up to truck sizes, your batteries are so massive that your payload left over is not enough to really turn a profit.
What point do you actually get to that problem?
Like at truck size.
Like at pickup truck size?
No, at long haul, like commercial shipping.
Yeah.
I don't know the numbers for sure, but it was something like they can carry, let's call it half the load of a normal truck. And at that point, your return on investment is way worse.
Yeah. And especially for those long trips, then like sitting and charging and, this is why they're we'll have a whole new charging infrastructure.
But the pitch that I've heard for that is you only use the battery when you're at highway speed because you're most energy inefficient as you're accelerating.
But there's still weight associated with that, right?
Yeah.
So like you're starting to exceed your maximum weight as a commercial shipper.
Yeah,
because you're not running.
You're limited
a truck.
to 80,000 pounds. So if
Yeah.
you spend 20,000 pounds on a battery,
and even worse, that means you have to leave the facility underweight.
Yeah.
To then pick up this thing, to then
and like
reach
there
weight.
are loads that don't like fill up all your weight.
Yeah, for sure.
But like then like literally a pallet of water is 5,000 pounds. So there's other loads that are just like all of your weight is like your truck's basically empty.
Yeah. Well, and trucks are already like a high, capital intensive
Yeah.
thing. And when you're talking about, making it electric and or right, like utilization becomes the higher that capital intensity gets, the more you need to be utilizing and the bigger of a problem it is to be sitting for even 45 minutes charging. The tolerances, in trucking business, there's not a lot of give there a lot of times.
Well, like, so what about my idea of going back to my personal EV, where I have an EV with 50 miles of range. When I want to go on a road trip, I go pick up a trailer that I power draw from and gives me like more storage space.
I have a better option.
Okay.
Our car is going to be so popular that it's going to be on every street corner.
Naturally.
To come back to the robotic space, what it does is you have a network of car share of like, I'm not using my car today. It's going to sit on the street. So this car will autonomously drive up to the next one and swap batteries with a car on the street. So you just need peer-to-peer battery swap. You just have to equip a $200,000 arm on every single car.
No problem.
And have the incredibly high liability of moving a bomb around from car to car in the middle of a street. That's at like 800 volts, It'll be fine.
Okay. So that's obviously absurd. I've got the idea that fixes the problem.
I just heard genius. I don't know what you're talking about.
Go back to the 400-mile battery smart car concept, right? Let's go with that one where you're like,
tall,
15 feet off the ground because the batteries are stacked so high. Okay. So at this point,
the center of gravity is don't ask and don't take corners too sharply.
Right. So at this point, the logistic, right? Like at this point, your car is mostly just battery.
Yes.
So instead of swapping the battery, you swap the car. You swap out the, you get these like, right? You've got there's actually a company that
it's like a skateboard that's disconnected from the battery.
So there's companies that sell their like e-corners or something, and it's like the suspension and the motor and everything at the corner of each vehicle. You just swap those wheels and suspension parts off. And
you know what I want to do when I have two kids in car seats in my van is unbolt everything, sit on the side of the road, be unbolting wheels to swap them out.
And then you're still stuck with maybe my idea wasn't man, this car business thing is hard.
Who knows? If I was to sell anyone, I'm going to need to promise a way better future that I think I could deliver.
Actually, the really funny problem with again, side quest with battery interconnects, and I ran into this with even industrial robots, which are not nearly as energy intensive as cars, is you start to have problems with connectors. So any kind of connector that needs to connect and disconnect is going to be less efficient than hardwiring in your battery.
Yep.
And so you lose like 2% efficiency on your connectors, and 2% on 10 kilowatts is a lot of heat. So you got to put a cooling and you got to put all this maintenance
I didn't
stuff.
think about the heat part of that.
Yeah. And so this interface becomes this hot spot where you have to monitor the power usage and maybe even drop the power usage because the interconnect is not efficient enough.
That's really interesting. That may have been one of the things with Tesla with the swap thing, because I know one of the issues was that technically the Model S was built for swappable batteries, and actually Peter Rawlinson, he says he's the chief engineer. Elon says he's not. I don't know. Who knows? But he says like that system was engineered to be like fully automated and everything. The problem was that when they made the cars, they had all of these adhesives and insulators inside that pack thing. And so there was this, right? And the way the rules were written, the car has to be able to come in and basically recharge 80% of the battery within like 10 minutes or something like that. And once you've done this conversion process, you could do that. It was technically possible. The problem is that every time you come in for the first time, it's like an hour and a half of like extremely manual, like basically sort of like retrofit work to like
building the thing.
Yeah.
So I think our like let's tie off our game of our robot. What should we call this amazing 15-foot tall smart car with 400 miles of range and a nice like a sticker price of about $150,000
without the arm? The arm is optional.
Arm is an extra $150,000 option. What do we call it?
The Cyber Smart.
Cybersmart.
Cybersmart.
Coming to a dealership near you. Fully autonomous capable as of 2026, the Cybersmart. We're now accepting pre-orders. Place a non-refundable deposit of $25,000 in an account and send it to us, and you too can get a Cybersmart. Be a part of the solution tomorrow.
Quick disclaimer: bank accounts are only valid in Cayman Islands under the name of Stefan Salzak.
Cash in a brown paper bag works too, though.
I really feel like we should have a car company that accepts payment in cash. That seems like the mood.
What about Dogecoin?
I have heard that a lot of people at Tesla made life-changing amounts of money investing in Dogecoin around Elon Musk and selling when they could tell he got distracted.
It's a good thing that's not a regulated security.
What is that called? They're inside a group and they're trading a security.
I think you're talking about capitalism.
Yeah. Okay.
So Ed, we've talked about Elon and the world of Tesla and all that a little bit.
Yeah.
What all things have you worked on? Are you currently involved in around the broader Elon Musk universe? Things you have written, things you are working on, things, or things you can talk about.
Is it called the Muskyverse? To be clear,
Muskyverse. I actually do like that.
It's the worst smelling part of the multiverse.
Yeah, so I wrote a book in 2019 called Ludicrous, it came out in 2019, called Ludicrous, the Unvarnished Story of Tesla Motors. It's been a weird experience.
Available for sale on Amazon and all places
anywhere
where books
you
are
can
sold.
find a book, Yep.
Street corners.
Yep.
Loose women.
Libraries. Yeah.
It's hard. They don't accept a lot of money at the library, though.
They don't, but you can just steal them.
Then they have to buy a new copy.
Exactly.
So,
As an author, that's the only way.
If you want a copy and you don't want to spend money, don't download it. Steal it from the library.
That way I get paid. With tax money. So
Elon Musk has rubbed off on you, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, listen.
You've gone in too deep. You've gone
There
local.
are times where I wish you'd rubbed off on me a little bit more. Writing books is not the greatest business. And especially writing books 5 years before people are ready to really on board and accept sort of what the arguments you're trying to make. It's fascinating though, it will literally be 5 years this summer since it came out. And kind of the two biggest points that I made were Tesla is culturally not set up to be a low-cost mass market manufacturer. And I go in quite a bit of detail, explaining why that is. And that's literally where we are now. 5 years later is they're backing away from this low-cost car. They're going all in on full self-driving. And then the other piece is...
why? I mean, traditional logic would say, hey, we start selling cars. I think you told me earlier they're at 2 million cars a year.
Just under, but
let's get to 4 by making a slightly cheaper one. We can buy all the same. We can buy slightly more tooling, depreciate it faster. Why that just seems like as someone who's never seriously considered manufacturing too much, that seems like a not roll out of bed, but kind of like passing 11th grade when you've passed 10th.
Yeah. So sort of fundamentally, right, Tesla's brought a totally different approach to car making than right. And the best sort of counterfactual to kind of help clarify the distinction is Toyota is sort of the quintessential car company, right? They've never had the latest technology in their cars. They've never been the fastest cars. They've never been the sexiest cars. It really shows this is a business that reinforces consistency, solidity, quality, these very unsexy things. And all of those things are more important in the mass market. So traditionally in the auto industry, right, you've had companies like Land Rover and Alfa Romeo and, the Italians and the British and, the French, the more premium these brands, the less reliable they tend to be. And it's fine because people have multiple cars, right? Your Ferrari breaks down, you take your Lexus into the office.
It's a hard day.
Yep.
And I'm a bit inconvenienced.
Yep.
But I will slum it in the Lexus.
But also on an industrial level, it's much, you have to build it at these higher scale and you have less margin to give. And so every mistake that you make, potentially gets you to the point where your whole program no longer makes money. The tolerance for mistakes is huge and is small. Whereas, when you have a high margin product.
And there's a difference between a Toyota style, what's the difference in units per year of a Toyota style automaker versus a Ferrari style automaker?
Yeah. So
are we talking $1 million versus 10 million? Or are we talking $1 million versus 100 million?
Yeah, 10 million. Yeah. So the biggest automakers, Volkswagen, Toyota, and General Motors are all around 10 million units. I think Stellantis now combined is close to around that.
So basically, like the
boys.
world breaks as you approach 5 million.
Yeah. So Sergio Marchionne, the late CEO of Fiat, and who organized the Fiat Chrysler thing, his whole thing was, if you're below the 5 million unit mark, this is sort of like 2007, 10-ish. Mm-hmm. If you're below the 5 million units a year mark, you simply will not make it. And like, again, I think this is like
as a mass car,
as a mass automaker. And so this is, this is one of the things that like in the auto industry, this stuff is like it's understood.
Yeah.
And it's why like so many people in the auto industry have been consistently skeptical that Tesla, that it makes sense to have any kind of startup automaker.
Huh.
Outside of a small, right? And this is, I've argued again in the book and like over and over again, if Tesla just wanted to be Silicon Valley Porsche, or
fine.
Ferrari,
yeah.
You talk about, then it's different, right? Then you're talking about limiting the production, exclusivity. It becomes a Veblen good, right? Where the fewer you make, the more profit and margin that you can create. And there's a little bit of like an interesting thing, because for Tesla, part of their marketing has always been this mission-driven idea that you're buying an expensive car, but it's helping people who are less fortunate get the
EVs for the masses.
But I think history has proven Tesla's, like most, if not all of Tesla's impact on the auto industry has all happened when it's been a premium automaker. Like it still isn't really a properly mass market automaker. And so like, it was still able to accomplish this like kickstarting, like the good that Tesla has done.
Yeah,
it could do as a premium automaker, and so
as electric Porsche.
Frankly, like if Elon got taken out tomorrow and the board it's a much more absurd scenario than it sounds like. It sounds like a reasonable scenario. I don't think it will happen, but if it did, like I think anybody who understands the car business would be like, okay, like Tesla may never be more than a 2 million unit automaker. Yeah. But it can be a very profitable automaker.
And basically like cut things like the Model 3, make more things like the Cybertruck, where like some group of people are going to be really stoked to buy $250,000 car, and just like double down on exclusive tech forward luxury car.
Yeah. Think about like, right. So if you're like Louis Vuitton or something like that, right. And you're selling these expensive products.
I never slum it with those bags. I'm a Birkin bag boy.
Okay. Fine. No, either way. Right. Like, so you build a premium, like a luxury brand, right. And Tesla's had like they turned profits during COVID because there was undersupply and people really wanted the cars and were willing to pay like much more than they're willing to pay now for them. Mm-hmm. There's a huge difference between saying like, okay, we've got the Louis Vuitton brand and we're going to, that's working, and we're going to build our business by creating a mass market sort of sub brand or something. Right. But like what Tesla's doing is they're just taking their Birkin bag that they've been selling and just cutting the price over and over and over and over and over again. And like it creates a really weird situation where essentially there's no going back. That's a one-way street.
Yeah.
Right. Where you can build volume that way. It's a novel strategy for building a certain amount of volume in the car business. But the problem they're at now is that they haven't been investing in new product and in R&D.
Yeah.
Their product pipeline is basically empty. And at the same time, they've been cashing in, they've been their brand equity essentially.
Yeah.
By just cutting the price,
I
now
see a Tesla and I think of an Uber.
Yeah.
And like Tesla has supplanted Prius.
Yep.
In not the way that you want to supplant Prius.
And in a way, the new Prius is kind of supplanted the Model 3. It's a hot looking car. Have you seen those?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hot little number.
Yep. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, one of the more engineering related stories is the soft tooling versus hard tooling thing that Tesla is doing, where if you're going through a production step for a new car or a new piece of a car, you usually will do a soft tooling step where you basically run everything through, but with the die cast made on a material that will only last for 10 runs or 100 runs. And then once you work out the kinks, because even with perfect computers, you're not going to get the fit up just right and you'll get gaps and that sort of thing. Then you machine the tooling out of really hard material that can last for thousands of units. And Tesla just said, nope, straight to hard, and cost a huge amount of money because of gaps and repairs and that sort of thing. And that makes a lot more sense thinking about it as a boutique manufacturer, where like, if you're making 100 of them or 1,000 of them, I mean, go to the hard tooling. It sucks if you get it wrong, but it's not going to suck that much.
Yeah.
Because you don't need 20 lines of it.
What does the profit per car look like of the Ferraris versus the Toyotas? I mean, or like some series of examples like that.
Well, so Ferrari is an interesting case because, and it's not a company that I've like looked really hard at the, at the finances of,
premium, yeah.
But like I think right. If you are able to build like an automotive brand to a certain level,
yeah.
Right. Ferrari makes most of its money on merchandising and like licensing and stuff. Yeah. There's a Ferrari amusement park in Abu Dhabi or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Huh. They make huge amounts of money on the hats, the team wear, So there's the whole Formula One team aspect of it as well.
I too discovered the show Drive to Survive during COVID.
Yeah,
So
totally.
now
You're
I
part
know
of the
a lot
new
about
class
F1.
of American F1 experts. Yeah. Totally. No, but like Tesla, I think part of Tesla's appeal is that they've never tried to be that, right? They've had this incredibly powerful brand.
Elitist.
But yeah, it's like.
But like, funny enough, like they pulled it off. They pulled off like accidental elitism for a while.
Yes.
Like it was a big flashy thing to say you owned a Tesla in Silicon Valley for a while.
Yeah. Well,
and it almost like seemed as if Musk was like going out of his way to destroy that vibe.
Yeah, and I think some of that was right. Some of it isn't right. Some of it is like compared to like Facebook was cool once upon a time.
Yeah.
Basically before they started trying to monetize it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's a similar thing. The problem is that they just didn't have a long-term monetization strategy. And this is like kind of the whole thing with Tesla is it's such a long-term business. Like it's the hardest form of hardware, making cars, and everything has to have these really long time frames. You build a factory, you're going to be paying off, the tooling over years and years and years, and you're going to be right. And like, you have to have these long-term perspectives, and Elon Musk is just fundamentally an undisciplined person. And I say this not from a place of superiority. I recognize in him my own shortcoming. Like there's a reason I'm a journalist and I don't work in the auto industry myself. Is because I'm not good at being methodical and consistent and detail oriented and like all these sorts of things that you have to do.
I mean, so basically, is your premise that Tesla needs to be a slow, predictable innovation EV Porsche aimed towards like the elites of high cost living areas as a status symbol about how they alone as a upper earner are saving the world by driving a Tesla. And that like it might be more valuable for Tesla to have a climate pledge where for every car they donate they buy 10 acres of virgin rainforest and set it aside because that only costs like $500. Rainforest land's super cheap, which is why so many people burn it.
Right.
And that would actually be more valuable than them muddling around trying to build a $20,000 EV.
I mean, look, the fundamental problem Tesla has is that the expectations are just unachievable, right?
Yeah.
Like the valuation. Yep. And all of the expectation that goes along with that, like can't be. And the problem is like, it's not clear if you say, okay, like we're going to step back from the hype and we're going to focus on something achievable. It's not clear how many people are going to be still along for that ride. Right. Yeah. And I think that's.
You mean employees? You mean customers?
Investors, customers, employees, fans, evangelists, people who do all the free marketing.
I mean, I've heard the argument before that Tesla's valuation makes a lot of sense. Because it's not currently valued as a percentage of the current automotive industry.
Right.
It's valued as 100% of what the automotive industry will look like in the future.
Right.
With software cars and autonomy and EVs. So really, it makes a lot of sense that it's valued at more than Toyota.
Yeah, and I think that's why you now have this bizarre situation where, again, like having built up to almost 2 million units a year, which is like crazy for a startup to get to 2 million units of. No one would have ever thought that was possible. And then to be like, okay, well, we're just not going to keep investing in it.
Yeah, so actually, I hadn't been following that news as much.
Yeah.
My hunch is this might be the first time Ilia's had a chance to, because I keep on making Ilia work. And I try to keep him away from his family, from his personal devices. He only needs to work on Polymath. So why don't you tell the audience and my cave-stricken co-founder about recent announcements in Tesla land and what you think it means?
I mean, the short version is right. So Cybertruck is the latest new product. They've got some like refreshes to the Model 3 and the Model Y that have come out in China, but like really haven't reset demand the way they'd hoped. So the only other thing in the product pipeline at Tesla is this low cost, they've been calling it the Model 2 car. And I guess internally it's called the NV9 or something. But essentially Reuters reported that it's been shelved. or it's either delayed or canceled. It's not really clear which, and the distinction is, as I'm sure you know.
But in terms of the thing that they are focusing on.
And that the alternative to this is a robotaxi. And so then...
A robotaxi without a steering wheel.
Yeah, well, we don't even know that for sure.
As a B2B or as a B2C?
Elon has just said that they're going to reveal
Why would you ask a question like that?
dedicated robotaxi model on August 8th. And that's kind of all anybody knows. I've heard a little bit of like kind of whispers around the campfire. There's like, because in the Walter Isaacson book that came out, they showed a couple pictures of this study. Apparently it's not going to be that is what I'm hearing. It's going to be kind of more of like a box, probably not that.
Like the Origin, the cruise Origin?
I think it's going to be something along those lines. It's not clear if it will be. So what's really interesting is if they do build a robotaxi with no steering wheel, like there's no regulatory barrier to them pushing full self-driving software to any of their cars today that are on the road because they're all FMVSS motor vehicle safety standard compliant. So they could just push that update anytime. And if that's all it took to make those cars self-driving, they could do it. With a dedicated robotaxi model without human controls, all of a sudden you've created a regulatory barrier where there was none before. And why?
I'm gonna bet they're gonna target China for it. Okay. There's actually quite a few. I was at the GTC conference just recently, and there was 2 or 3 different Chinese manufacturers of robotaxis there with large fleets, like hundreds of units in active service all over the country. Like that seems like a much more questions friendly. Of one of them, and I can't. So the question I asked, which was interesting, was I kind of there's an engineer there, and I said, like a
reluctant, sad engineer.
No, he seemed fine.
Well, no, like reluctant that he had to talk to the public.
Yeah, that's most engineers. I kind of looked at it, and it had a bunch of ousters and some sensors that I'm familiar with, and I was like, my guess of compute on this thing is about 150K, and compute and sensing and those sort of things. And then the vehicle itself, no idea. 70K, 100K, 200K, I don't know. But like, let's just talk about sensing and compute. You have X hundreds of these vehicles. You have maybe $200 million just like out on the roads right now, just as CapEx. Like, that is nuts.
Yeah. To which the guy shrugged and was like, yeah, more or less.
Yeah, about that. And I was like, and that's for public transit? Like that's a very big cost.
There's a lot of rich people in buses.
No, I love public transit. This is a big reason why I love living in San Francisco, to be clear.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know if that's a high margin market.
You gotta get that bus money.
Yeah.
The bus money is step 1 on the way to the monorail money. And that's when you know you've made it.
So incidentally, Stefan's favorite book is The Power Broker.
Not my favorite book.
That's a good one.
But a book I've been loving.
Yeah. So, got to get that fare money to run your fiefdom.
Yeah. Well, no, but it's weird because Tesla's the only company that's had this, like, been able to sort of fit these things together, at least conceptually, of like, you will buy and own this car, but then like when you're not using it, the self-driving system will go off and like, serve as I mean, it's absurd.
They've
right?
deployed a lot of systems that do all that.
Yeah. And
I think you came
they've
here.
sold a lot of $10,000 to $15,000 upgrade packages.
Yeah, for that
pure profit.
Right? I think like
can I make a high level bet though?
Yeah.
Remember when Tesla announced the humanoid and there was a person in a suit?
Yeah.
Their robotaxi is going to have a guy dressed as the seat.
Yeah.
Driving the thing.
Like that Ford study on Stanford's campus from like 10 years ago.
That's right.
There's actually, if you're going to shout out my friend Joanne McNeil wrote a really funny sci-fi book called Wrong Way. And I probably shouldn't give it, but like the twist is essentially it's a woman gets a job as the like secret hidden human driver of a self-driving car. Anyway, if you work in this space, as Stefan, you would really enjoy this book. You should get a copy.
Yeah. That sounds very reasonable.
There will be Amazon links with a 500% commission for every book mentioned in this podcast.
I thought you were going to talk about Amazon Go stores, which also relied on human labor elsewhere.
Yeah. Where
your fully autonomous robotaxi has hit a cell dead zone and completely unrelatedly is not driving anymore. Not sure why.
Weird.
Where AGI means a guy in India.
Oh man,
not my own line.
Okay,
no, but
not my own line.
That's a good one. Though.
Every listener should give me full credit for how clever that is. I guess Ed, if you were to make a prediction about the robotics company most often talked about, Tesla, what it looks like,
not Polymath Robotics.
Yeah, like it's neck and neck.
All right.
Like we'll crush We will crush Tesla like how the Automated podcast has crushed the Autonocast in every perceivable metric.
Please go listen to the Autonocast.
It's great. It's absolutely. It's one of the best. It's one of the best podcasts in the world. Right after hours. If you were to make a bet of what this enigmatic company that seems to pull a hat out of every bag will ever possible.
Yeah.
In the not 5 years, that's too far. Not 1 year, that's too close. Let's say 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
End of year 2026. What do you think the world of Tesla looks like?
So, as a long-term critic, I've had to become very careful about making predictions about Tesla. One of the things people do is they're constantly telling me about all these predictions
we do have Jim Cramer waiting on the line to make a buy or sell order based on what you say.
Here's what I will say. The situation right now, we're in unprecedented territory. I've been watching this company pretty closely since 2015. They've definitely been in trouble before. There's no question. They've always had a way out. They're at the point that Elon is recycling, right? Like full self-driving was the fix problems in 2016 idea.
Yeah.
And he's continuing now to go back to that well. His credibility is really falling apart on that. And again, the part of this that I think is really been corrosive, and again, this is just in the last couple of weeks, to just, even among fans on the forums and stuff, is this sense that Tesla is no longer investing in EVs. It does not want, Tesla is the leader of this space. It does not want to lead this industry into this new low cost, higher volume world. Why not? And I think our little thought experiment about EVs at the beginning of this show, indicates some of the challenges that are there. But the reality is that if Tesla's not going to do it, who is? And I think that the combination of just the fact that the technology hasn't worked, and if no one on the board is able to get Elon to sort of really recommit to investing a lot of money into the core business, right? You got to have a new Model S, essentially a Model X. You got to, the metal at some point has to be replaced. You got to invest in that product lineup. If it's not possible, whether because Elon refuses to, or because it's simply the resources aren't there to do it, to reinvigorate that product lineup, this is going to, frankly, I think a year and a half from now, things could be really bad. I hate to, I've really avoided predicting Tesla bankruptcy. Well, it's looking more likely than it ever has.
A meme I saw on Reddit last week, so here's my source, said that Tesla's share of the U.S. EV market is now 51%, which is a decrease from, I think, an all-time high of 65% a couple years ago. Ish, maybe 70% or something. What do you think it is in 2.5 years?
In 2.5 years.
By dollars or units?
I mean...
Percent. I honestly do not know what the metric was, but let's say
probably
units.
Car shipped.
Yeah,
car shipped.
It's really hard to say. What I will say is this: General Motors, I think their market share peaked in around right at the end of the 60s, early 70s, at over 60% of the market, right around a very similar point. And it's interesting because there's some interesting parallels to that, and it was very quickly taken away, and it was for the same reason, which is that General Motors stopped investing in their technology, stopped investing in their product. I think I remember they were during the bailout, they were holding on to 13% or something like that. Yeah. It was decades of decline.
Maybe in 2.5 years, my bet it should be 25%.
I would say that I would be willing to take the under on that.
Elliot, what do you think?
My doubt there is I've seen a lot of data on EV sales in general slowing down. So the pipe in is slowing down.
Yes.
So the existing amount of cars is going to continue.
Well, no, sorry. The percentage I'm talking about is of new EVs sold.
New EVs sold. Okay.
End of year 2026.
Oh, okay. Not total EVs.
Yes.
Okay. New EVs sold. Yeah, I'd call it 35.
All right. Well, you've officially bet your life savings and your souls. I've been texting Jim Cramer the entire time. He's going to issue a mass sell order on Tesla based on this conversation, which probably means their share price will double the next week.
Yeah. Joke's on you. All my money's in DJT.
And with that, thank you guys so much for joining our podcast. We probably aren't going to do 2 episodes in a single week again. We're probably going to release this a week from now to be smart. But Ilia, what are we going to talk about next week?
Well, hopefully not how we get sued by Elon Musk.
Thank you all so much for joining us this week. And Ed, thanks so much for being on with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been a blast.
See you next time.